So that's how we create a single image. If we want to render out our full animation, we can go over into the output settings again, this little printer icon. And now we need to pick a directory to save this into. I'm just going to pick the same directory that we've just saved those two individual images into. To call this animation and accept. Since we're saving out an animation, we can save out a movie file. But if we do that and the render crashes partway through, we'll end up with nothing. So when rendering an animation, it's actually useful to render out a sequence of images, and then we can save those images as a final movie file at the end. So in order to do that, we're going to leave the file format set to PNG. We're going to change this to RGB, and we can leave our other settings the same. Now, so that we can get a quick result, I'm going to switch this over to the EEVEE render engine, and then we're going to do a test render of our animation sequence. So to render out our result, if we go up to the render menu, we can now pick render animation. Now you can see up at the top here that it's rendering out each of our frames. This will take a few minutes to do. Okay, so with the image sequence complete, we can now view our end result. So let's close down our render window, and under the render menu we can click on view animation. That will open up a new window which will play through our finished animation. So let's close down this window again. Now if you open up your file system, you'll be able to find all of the images that we've just rendered out. Whilst we could view them in Blender as an animation sequence that we were able to play, if we want to save this as a video file that we're able to share with other people, we're going to need to combine these images into a final sequence. You can do that with any piece of editing software, but we can also do that within Blender. So I'm going to show you the process for that now. If we go up to the top of the workspace, you can see this little plus icon, and that allows us to add in an additional workspace. Under video editing, we can pick the video editing workspace. So now we need to load in our rendered images as a sequence. So if we go down to the bottom here, we can see this sequencer panel. If we hit the add menu here, we can go down to image sequence. It will open up this file browser, and we can go and find our images that we've just rendered out. So you can see they're all listed here. If I select the first one, scroll down the list and select the final image in our sequence, you can see we have all of the images here, and if I click add image strip, they'll be added in to this sequencer. I can scrub through and I can see my animation up at the top here, all of the rendered files. So now what we can also do is we can select this image strip here, and we can duplicate that in the same way as anything else in Blender. We just hit Shift D and we drag this out. So I'm going to put that at the end here. I'm going to then do the same again, and I'm going to add an extra couple of sequences there. If I scrub to the end of this, you can see that our final frame down at the bottom here is frame 156, but we're actually only going to be saving out frames 1 to 39. So I need to change this end frame to 156 and hit enter, and then we'll be able to save out this looping animation. Now, in order to output this, we use our same output settings, which we can see up at the top here, but we need to change this from the PNGs that we rendered out originally. We need to change that file format. I'm going to leave the directory the same, so I'm going to save it in the same place, but I'm going to change this file format from PNG to a movie file. So I'm going to pick FFmpeg, then under encoding, scroll down, I'm going to change that container type to an MPEG-4, and then the other options should be fine to be left as default. With those properties set, we can now go back up to our render menu and pick render animation one more time. Again, this is going to open up our render result window, and it's going to play through the animation and render it out into a movie file. And once that render is complete, if we jump back into our file system, you can see that we have created a new movie file down at the bottom here. And if we open that, we can play it through, and we have a final looping animation.